Welcome, welcome. This is the Inner Enlightenment Show, and I'm your host, Laurie Schoenfeld. Thank you for all of those joining us live and for those who will join us later on the replay. I am extremely excited to introduce you to our guest today, Angela Singletary. She is a best-selling author of Finally Free and a wellness coach at Purpose for Yang. We're going to be chatting today all about her journey with dwarfism and being a wellness coach. Welcome, Angela. So excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I have been following Angela for a while, and she is a powerhouse, absolutely inspirational, and her story is very powerful, and I'm excited to dive into that a little bit today. Angela, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're creating right now in the world.
Yeah, so I'm a single mom of three. I have three kids. Aiden is 12, DL is 10, just turned 10, and Mouse will be 7 at the end of the month. I am a life and wellness coach. I love helping women ages 35 to 55 find radical self-love. I am currently working on I'm going to be in another book project that comes out in May. And then I just recently launched 2 book projects of my own that are specific to the dwarfism community. One will be stories of women with dwarfism, and one will be stories of parents of children with dwarfism, with the stories being focused on pregnancy to toddlerhood. I have, one-on-one coaching and group coaching. And then I have my podcast that comes out every week, which is A Little Perspective, where I interview different people. Each month is a different theme. This month was entrepreneurship. Next month is moms, and June is dads. So that's kind of what keeps me busy nowadays.
I love what you're constantly creating and how you are taking who you are and your journey and story and implementing it in multiple ways to share your voice, but also open room and space for others to share their journey and their story as well. Let's dive into your journey with dwarfism, of different things that you've learned along your journey and different things that you've gone through that have led you to where you are today. And we'll jump right on back with Angela. We're going to talk a little bit today as well about her podcast, Little Perspective, that she just mentioned, that she has weekly. She also has multiple books that she just talked about that she's doing collaborations on that she's going to share as well. And then talking about her journey with dwarfism and some of the pieces that are misunderstood about dwarfism, as well as also her journey walking through having dwarfism and how it has helped her to get exactly where she is today as well. So give me just 1 minute and we will get Angela back on. Welcome.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I was just all got on the internet or something.
It happens with this digital world. There is always things moving and shaking for sure. I was just sharing with our viewers a little bit about how we're going to dive in more about, in a bit, your podcast, A Little Perspective, and also the collaborations that you are doing within your books. But I would love for you to share with us right now your journey with dwarfism, of how it's moved you through to where you are right now.
Yeah, so I'm 39. I have achondroplasia dwarfism. I'm 4 foot tall. My mom is also a little person, and my sister was. My girls are. My son's the only one in the house that isn't. And so it's kind of hard to while you're growing up to fully understand the impact that it has on you because you're in it. But, looking back, I can see some of the ways that it made me more empathetic, made me stronger in ways. I'm sorry, the kids are yelling right outside the door. I don't know if you can hear that.
You're perfect.
One second. Sorry. And I also specifically can see the ways it impacted my esteem and confidence, and how that in and of itself kind of shaped some of the decisions I've made growing up and then into adulthood. I walked away from a 10-year marriage, and in hindsight could see how very toxic it was and the damage that it did to me. And I'm a different person today than I was then, for sure. And so there are a lot of benefits to having dwarfism. There are a lot of things that it grants you. But there's also a lot of challenges. And again, you don't necessarily always see those. There's the obvious ones. You can't ride all the rides at Disney World, or, people look at you a lot. But then the ones that kind of impact you a little bit deeper, you don't necessarily realize until you start doing the work to uncover some of that stuff. And so, there's been a lot of things that have been buried for a while that I've worked through and processed since, that were a direct result of the dwarfism, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What is a common misunderstanding that you feel a lot of people have when it comes to dwarfism?
There's a lot. People are surprised to find out we drive, that we can have kids, that we have jobs, that we don't automatically just get disability because we're, a little person. Some people think that there's an intellectual challenge that comes with it when it's just a physical situation. People just don't think of us as just an average person in a smaller person's body. They have a hard time understanding that truly our stature is the only thing that's affected. And while that does have effects where, I have a step stool in every room and most people don't, but I still cook. My house isn't adapted. They think that you have everything that's smaller, and my house isn't adapted at all. So there's a lot of misunderstandings and assumptions that are made about someone having dwarfism, for sure.
Mm-hmm. You are someone that is a beautiful mover and shaker that has radiant energy, and you are constantly sharing wellness. You're coaching with others, as well as confidence, body image, affirmation, self-esteem with kids and adults, in areas that really need to be talked about during this time. And you're constantly doing that. What is a common theme that you see with those that you are coaching, but also talking with, that is one of the areas where they feel they can embrace either their body, heart, or their mind?
So my clients specifically, I tend to attract overachievers. And so I get these women who are highly successful, always doing all the things, but yet constantly beating themselves up for not doing more, or feeling stuck, or have completely lost their identity in getting all these other things done for everyone else. So one of the most common things that I have to teach my clients is boundaries, and how important they are to all of us to have a firm set of boundaries that we don't allow other people to cross. Owning our time and our energy and how we divvy that out, understanding that we don't automatically owe anyone anything ever. We don't owe anyone any explanation or, any piece of ourselves, any actions, unless we feel like it's something that we want to invest in them. And every move you make is an investment. And every time you are giving out your energy or your time or your resources, it's an investment. And it needs to be thought of as if, it's a stock, or, that you are truly going to appreciate, that the investment itself is going to appreciate. And that doesn't mean that you have to always get something out of it. I'm definitely a huge believer in giving and giving freely, but on my own terms, because I want to and because I feel led to, not because somebody guilted me into it. And societally speaking, women have been made to feel that they have an obligation to give themselves away to so many in their, circle, whether it be their spouse or their parents or their siblings or their friends, their, church groups, that just all of these things, the sects that you're a part of, that you just feel like you have to give, and you're left with nothing in return. The old adage of the airplane, flight attendant telling you to put your mask on first is for a reason. You have to fill your cup. And if you're pouring from an empty cup, then you're not doing anyone any good, especially yourself. So that seems to be one of the most common things that I talk with clients and just people alike. People message me and say, this is what I'm struggling with, and I'm happy to give them, suggestions and feedback. And women, I typically work with women. I do have a few male clients every now and then, but it's not very often. And so when I'm speaking with women, it is stop giving yourself away, set those boundaries, and take care of yourself, because, and a lot of that, the root is self-love. And so that's my biggest thing, is self-love. And that's what I grew and learned about, like when I walked away from that marriage, I realized I had none. And while I knew that I had a lot to offer the world, I did not feel very valued. And I had to work a lot on that to gain that. And the root of that is the root of so many other things, because if you don't value yourself and your time and your resources, then you'll be more likely to give them away, because you're trying to use them as a tool to gain that attention, that appreciation, so that you can internalize that as self-love. But that's not really self-love. That's just internalizing external attention, and it's easy to do, and especially in this social media day and age where likes and comments and stuff give us that dopamine hit, but that's not long lasting, and that's not true. And so figuring out how to find that true radical self-love within yourself is really the key.
You're speaking and I'm soaking in. You're like sharing so many pieces of, like, I resonate with this journey a lot. Of definitely an overachiever. I used to be recovering overachiever, and giving, and wondering why in the world I was so depressed and anxious and having panic attacks all of the time, and trying all these different resources, and nothing seemed to help until I stepped back and really started learning what loving Laurie looks like and setting those boundaries. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are a wellness coach at Purpose for Ing. I would love to hear why you started that. What was the beginning stage of putting that together, and how it's expanded to where it is now?
Yeah, so it's a long story how it got there, but the short of it is I was going back to school and seeking a psychology degree, and Tulane, the school I was at, started a health and wellness program. And at one point I was interested in becoming a registered dietitian, but the only registered dietitian program that was around was an in-person program during the day, 2 hours away, and I couldn't do that. So a single mom of three, that just wasn't on the table. And back then, online schools were, I mean, there was a lot of online, but it just wasn't as like everywhere as it is now. And that was only a few years ago. But COVID changed everything. And so, but anyway, so I immediately switched my degree to health and wellness, and finished that out, and always thought that I would want to be a health coach. More so envision myself in a corporate role, whether it be with a hospital or with an insurance company. Never really considered entrepreneurship. Lots of deep-seated insecurities and childhood beliefs of entrepreneurship not being safe, and it's much better to always go with a paycheck. But ended up kind of accidentally getting into it because I started with my friends and then just practicing on them, coaching them, and then it evolved into other people, and really loved it. And so I was doing that while I was working at Habitat for Humanity. And then in December of 2019, I left Habitat to do this full time. It's Purpose by Ange. And so, and I have a friend who's a marketing guru, and he helped me with the name. And at the time, I thought I just wanted to be a health coach. I thought the phrase life coach seemed very pretentious and not along the lines of what I was doing. And then in January of last year, I started full-time entrepreneurship as a single mom of three. And then we all know what happened in March. And so it made things very interesting. But, we got through it, and used a lot of tools. I actually struggled with anxiety more than I ever have last year, which most of us did. But anxiety was that level of anxiety was kind of new to me. And so, but really created a toolbox for myself, and got through it, and came out the other side even better, as we typically do when we're going through storms. And through that, the clients that I started attracting were more, I've always focused on mind, body, and soul. So it's not been, just like how much do you weigh or anything like that. But I really started to evolve more into talking about how are you practicing self-love? What kind of self-care are you doing? What are your hobbies? How can you get back into practicing those hobbies? Because, as moms, we put all that stuff to the side. And then we just find ourselves using Netflix and social media during our spare time, and we're not feeling fulfilled. And then, we can say, oh, I used to do this, and I used to knit, and I used to, draw, or I used to write. And, it needs to stop being used to. It needs to be what we do. You do have the time. You're just not being intentional with it. And it's so much more fulfilling when you're able to do those things. So we start talking about those kinds of things as well. And so I completely changed my program around, and now I consider myself a life and wellness coach. And the title of my business is more suiting than ever. I wasn't sure. I felt like it was the right title when I first started, but at the same time, I wasn't quite sure. But now I'm like, okay, this is why. Like, this is what was meant to be. This is where that was going. The universe always has a plan, and so it's worked out perfectly. And so now, we work on 6 areas of wellness. We work on nutrition and exercise, both very important things, but also not to be confused with, needing to meet any sort of societal norms or anything like that. Personal time, self-care time, any kind of, some moms have wants to go back to school or to further themselves career-wise. So we'll talk about that kind of stuff if that fits for them. Spiritual, I'm a very spiritual person, and journaling, meditations, and affirmations are 3 tools that I'm huge believers in the toolbox. And so I'll usually, get them to do one of those, if not all 3. I understand they're not for everybody, but I honestly think they are for everybody. You just have to get there. I'm really passionate about this. And you know, just setting I'm a big believer in setting very small goals to reach big goals. So really starting out small to get there incrementally. For instance, if somebody wants to start exercising regularly and they haven't been for years, you know, I'm not going to tell them to exercise an hour a day for 4 days a week. You know, we're going to start out 10 minutes a day, once or twice a week, and then we're going to build from there. You want to be able to set goals that you can keep. That way you can build that trust back with yourself, because so often we have gone our entire lives breaking promises to us, and our brains don't trust us to hold our word to things. And so it's so easy for us at 39 to say, oh, I know I said I was going to start today, but I'm just going to start tomorrow, because we've been doing it for so long. But once you start to build that trust up with yourself, then you can be better at holding yourself accountable for whatever it is that the goals that you set for yourself. So that's really our first step, is building that trust up back with yourself. It's really important. And just making it so it's not overwhelming and it's easy and you can do it, because you can. You know, you don't have to dive in head first. You don't, again, you know, forget the societal norms, forget what they do on TV and what other people are doing on Instagram and all that. An hour a day is just not realistic for a lot of people. So that's kind of the gist of Purpose by Ange, and the long the long breath of it.
There was so much that you said that I was just, I don't know if you saw my face. I was like, yes. And my heart was just so excited as you were talking about, you know, writing affirmations and meditation, how that's in your toolbox. And it is something that what does work for everyone if you're willing to really take a look at it. And I I resonate so much with that. Of there's something so beautiful about having that stillness in writing and in meditation to really listen and separate the norm of what you think you need to be versus who you are and what your heart wants to be. Which if you listen and you write things down, it will naturally just come to you in really beautiful ways that already speaks to you if you're listening. So I love that so much. I would love, Angela, you talked about boundaries a few times, which I'm definitely working on right now, creating a lot of those in my own life, but also being a single mom. And I hear often, there is no way that I can be a mother and an entrepreneur. Can you speak to that a little bit on how boundaries has really helped to support you to be able to create the life that you are wanting to build in those areas?
Yeah, so one of the big things about boundaries is just your priorities. You know, you need to figure out what your priorities are. Everything can't be your priority. And it can be hard sometimes to say that right now, like to say today, my priority is doing this list of things that are essential for my business, and my kids are going to play on their iPad all day, you know, like, and that's not something that looks good or sounds good, but it's something that you just need to figure out what your main priority is, and then prioritize underneath that, you know, because if my priority is to build my business, to build Purpose by Ange, so that I can continue to be a full-time entrepreneur, because it does allow me flexibility with my kids and have more time with my kids. And then, you know, of course, I would like for it to give me the financial freedom that I want to be able to, you know, do things with the kids, go on trips and things like that. So if that is my A priority, then, you know, A number one, A number two, A number three sometimes looks like putting the kids on the back burner a little bit. Even though they're a big part of the number one priority, the day-to-day of it doesn't always look like getting to play video games with my son, which he loves to do, and I enjoy it too. And, you know, getting to sit and read with Mouse and, try to make my oldest teen talk to me because she's, a teen and doesn't open her mouth, and so you just have to prioritize every single day. And so time, and this is kind of getting away from the boundaries, but time management in that realm is absolute 100% key. If you can't manage your time, then you can't manage your priorities, and you really can't be an entrepreneur if you can't manage your time. Especially not as like a single mom. If you have more help, then that might be something that you could do a little bit more loosely. But I don't see how, as a single mom of 3 who their dad lives in Portland, so it's me 24/7, and if I didn't manage my time effectively, then I wouldn't get anything done. And as an entrepreneur, things don't happen accidentally as an entrepreneur. Like, the universe puts things in your path, but you have to act on it, because it's not going to just do it itself. And so then to speak on the boundary side, again, it's about priorities. So, I've had clients who have recognized toxic behaviors in their blood relatives, and while it's upsetting, it's also comforting to realize, so all this time, like, it hasn't been me, it's been them. And so now I know how I need to react and be proactive with them. When I recognize that they're trying to pull me into the family drama that I want absolutely nothing to do with, then I have to say, all right, I gotta go. I'll call you next week. Or, or if going out and about, going over to their house for all day is going to drain you dry, then be very intentional about just going 1 or 2 hours. I'm not implying you have to just cut people out of your life, because that's not always the answer. I mean, sometimes it is, but not always. But it's just about drawing those lines and holding them, and being unapologetic about it. And to a certain extent, you don't want to be cold because they don't understand. But you also want to understand yourself, that you deserve that. Like, you are doing yourself a disfavor by not holding yourself accountable for these boundaries that need to be in place. And boundaries are time management as well. Like, if I have a lot of friends. I do. I'm very, very lucky in that sense. And I try to be a really good friend to all of them. But that also means that I still only have this much time to give this many people. And so that means when I get on the phone with one of them, I have to know, okay, I can give them 20 minutes of my time. And then when that 20 minutes is up, I have to say, all right, it's great talking to you. I got to go. It's just about holding those priorities but figuring out what that looks like for you. And if this is brand new to you, if boundaries are brand new to you, then that's your first step, is figuring out your why. And whether it's through entrepreneurship, why are you wanting to run a business, which I kind of just explained mine, or even just, your personal life. Like, why is it, what are you wanting to accomplish in general? Are you wanting more time with your kids, with your spouse, with, being able to cook real meals? If that's important to you, it's not important to everybody, but figuring out what's important to you, how to make that fit in there, and then what you perceive the challenges are going to be, because you have to be able to see that ahead of time so that you can be prepared for how you're going to respond to it. You can see that your mom's going to call and get you on the phone for 2 hours and you're not going to be able to start dinner on time. And you're just going to have to cut her off and say, I got to go. And at first, people may have hurt feelings, but eventually they'll get over it, because if you stay consistent with it, they'll see that this is why you're doing that, and they'll start to understand. And even if they still give you a hard time about it, it doesn't matter if your why still holds true.
I absolutely agree with you on that. What are some things, Angela, that are things you're passionate about, that you enjoy doing, that are creative and fun?
So I'm a big knitter, but I'm not very good at it. So, there's a difference. I Friday nights are very much family movie night. No, rarely an exception to that. And I spend that time sitting in my chair, drinking my mocktail, and we watch a movie. We eat probably pizza or some junk food before we watch the movie. And then I knit. I've got a blanket I'm working on. I've got some face cloths I'm working on. It's just very soothing for me. And I've knit for a while. I've known how to for a while, but it was one of those things that I put on the back burner and realize that coach has to coach herself, and you need to do what you love, and it feels good. It's one of those things where you have something to show for it, and so that feels good. Sometimes I'll break out the color pencils and markers, and I have a couple of adult coloring books. That's always fun. I love to quilt, but that is really something I have not been able to find time for because it's a whole ordeal getting the machine out and the material and all that. So at some point I'll do that again. I don't know when, because I still have things that I haven't finished that are in my room. So I love to read. I read every night before bed. I read a real book every night before bed. I listen to podcasts and audiobooks every day. They're typically nonfiction because I'm always trying to read things that can help me be a better coach, learn more. We are so lucky to live in this day and age where information is just plentiful, just absolutely plentiful. And we are learning so much about self-love and inner child and all that kind of stuff that it's like I can't get enough of it. So I walk the kids to and from school every day, and so I listen to audiobooks then, and then I'll listen to podcasts while I'm making dinner. So those are the things that I like to do. The kids and we love, we have a pool in the backyard, so we'll be doing a lot of that as it warms up. We've already started because we live in South Mississippi, so it's not, we're lucky to get warmer weather than most until the summer, and then it's just unbearable. But I love to travel. Traveling is something I discovered after my divorce, and it is, oh man, it is so good. And so I hope to get some of that done this year. Obviously last year didn't see any. So that's the gist of it. I'm very intentional with my time. I am, and when I feel tired, I rest, and if I need to take a break, then I'll break out the coloring book or what have you. I've learned what works for me, and that's one of those things where you just kind of have to figure out what works for yourself. And I'm intentional about it. Baths are important. I took a bath the other night for the first time in like a month, and I'm usually better about it than that, but I had let that get away from me, and it felt good. I think baths are a great way, like you said about the meditation. It's another great way to kind of just be with yourself, because that's hard sometimes when you haven't processed some things that are swirling around up there. And but that's the only way you're going to do it, is to spend some time with yourself. And baths are a great way to do that, because you can really spruce it up and make it feel fancy, and give yourself the luxury feel.
Mm-hmm. I love showers and baths, so I would love to hear, Angela, what different things you like to do to spruce up your shower and bath time, because it for sure, I enjoy that as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm a quick showerer. Is that a word? I take quick showers, but I'm a big essential oils person. I'm real hippy dippy, and so I'll put some on a rag and put it on the floor of the shower to steam, to distill for the shower. And that's about as fancy as I get with the showers, because I'm in and out 10 minutes. But And I'm dabbling in cold showers because I've been learning about the value of that. But I really like my showers like scalding, boiling hot. So it's a process to get me there. But I'm dabbling. But then baths. So I have this Himalayan salt lamp, and it's rocks, and so there's others that are just like whole pieces, but I have a couple of those, and so every few months I'll buy new salt rocks and change those out because they lose their color and they get all dusty. And I put them in a laundry bag, the old ones, and then put them in a laundry bag, and then I will put them in my bath water for like 5 minutes and let them dissolve down some. And then Epsom salt and oils. And then I will play. I'm a big fan of sound baths, of singing bowls. And so I have a friend that does live sound baths, and ever since I went to one of those, it is, man, I can't wait till that becomes more mainstream and there's more of them, because he lives 3 hours away, so I can't get there very often. But I'll play the YouTube. Everything's on YouTube, right? And so I'll play that, or just some like peaceful music, and I'll set a timer for 15 minutes, and I'm in the tub, and I will not get up until that 15 minutes is up. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I am itching to get up because or we're just busy. But it's important. And so I do it. I stay there for 15 minutes, and then I'll, bathe and everything. But I soak when I do. My goal is to take a real bath like that once a week. That's what I usually do. But I haven't been, so I gotta get back on that.
Do you feel a difference when you take a little bit of time out for yourself on how you approach your relationships, either personally or in business or with yourself?
Yeah, I feel a difference in everything. Everything. I feel a ton calmer, and I'm a better parent. I'm easier. I don't yell as much. I would love to not yell at all, but I'm not going to lie to you and say I don't. But I don't yell as much. I'm able to be more rational. I don't take things as personal. The Four Agreements is one of my favorite books, if not honestly my favorite book. And nothing is personal, and I believe that. But when I'm tired and when I haven't been taking care of myself, then I'm taking things personal. I'm taking a comment that somebody said on somebody else's post, somebody I don't even know. I'm like, how dare you say that about me? And I'm like, they don't know you, Angela. Just because they're saying something to you it's not about you. Whereas if I'm, well rested, I'm much less likely to do that, and much easier to just brush things off. And when you start to truly be intentional and consistent with taking time for yourself, then you should be able to see that. And that should be your motivation for continuing to do so. And that should help push you to be able to hold those boundaries better. And, because we've all had that person where when we get off the phone with them, we are just drained. Like we have no energy left. We're irritable just because we talk to someone over the phone, and you don't have to allow that in your life. Like you can keep that limited so that doesn't happen to you. So, I think I love that question, because being aware of it is key to being able to motivate yourself to continue to do so, because it's not always easy. It's not always easy to say, okay, I didn't get this, and this done today. I really needed to, but I'm still going to go to bed on time. I have a very strict sleep schedule, and I haven't always, but I do now, and I tell the difference when I don't get enough sleep. And I only need 7 hours, luckily, but I used to get 4 or 5 a lot of times, and and there's been times since I've like set that sleep schedule that I've made that I've got stayed up later or gotten up early or whatever it may be, and then I'm irritable, and then I'm looking at myself like, well, you did it to yourself. you know why. So to be able to recognize that is key to being able to continue those healthy habits.
Mm-hmm. I'm in that process with sleep right now, as I like to read my books late into the night, and then I don't want to sleep, and I feel it in the morning, asking myself, well, I mean, the book was great, but how are you feeling really? Like, let's check in about this. It is not working for our attitude today. We need to adjust some things.
Yeah.
What is a negative internal dialogue piece that you held about dwarfism that you've shifted now today?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if this fully answers it, but this is what I think of when you ask me that question. So LPA is Little People of America, and it is an organization of people with dwarfism and their families. And I am very new to LPA. A lot of families are in it from the beginning of their children's lives, but 80% of little people are born to parents of average height. So LPA is a wonderful resource for those kinds of families that have no idea what to expect, what's going on, or anything like that. And me being the daughter of an LP, we didn't join LPA because there, wasn't a need. And long story, but the universe led me to this place where I stumbled upon the world of LP and dug in. And Mississippi didn't have a chapter, but I connected with the regional director or the district director of the Florida area. And so I went to my first LPA meeting in 2019, and it was in Fort Lauderdale. So we drove 18 hours to go. Wow. And it was very overwhelming. And I think one of the biggest things about it was, and the reason that your question made me think of this is because I was talking to someone else, another LP the other day about this, about their first experience, is you see all these little people that, you're not used to seeing. I see my mom and my kids, but because I see them every day, I just see them. But you see all these little people, and it's a slap in the face to kind of see how you look, because you don't know how you look, right? Like you don't get to see yourself. Even when you look in the mirror, you don't really see how you look. And to kind of see like, oh, like I walk like that. And when I'm walking by someone, like that's what it looks like. And it's really it's a very eye-opening experience. So, I didn't realize that I didn't see myself in that way. So that's one of the things that I've kind of like come to terms with, so to speak. My dad was 6'3", and he was a real hard ass, and he very much did not let us make excuses. And so I didn't grow. And then I had my grandpa who, he was a hard ass as well, but in a different way. Like he was very loving and encouraging, and didn't let us make excuses either. And so I had these two men in my life. So I didn't really feel like there were things I couldn't do. And when I would express that I couldn't do something, it was quickly proven wrong that I could. So I don't know that I've had any outstanding, thoughts like that. I did hesitate to become a nurse because I thought it would be difficult. But I know several LP nurses now, and just see that was just, hesitation. But it also, that wouldn't be the right field for me. That wasn't the right decision, but it was for the wrong reason. But other than that, there's not really been a whole lot that, I can say that I didn't think I could do, or would be affected by my dwarfism specifically.
You are amazing and so inspirational. I just am listening to you and I'm just so inspired myself. And I know there's many others that are watching that are hearing. You are absolutely amazing. So thank you for being here and sharing your journey and story with us today. I would like to turn it over to the inner child questions, where we'll ask you 2 questions that connect to your inner child. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. First question is, what is the oddest food combo that you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
So I'll try anything. Like, and my son's the same way. He'll try anything too. He loves food like I do. Oh goodness. Oh, I don't know. I currently love pork rinds and cream cheese. I don't know if that's an odd combo or not.
So explain that. So is it what it sounds like, cream cheese? And did you say pork?
Pork rinds.
Okay. I love cream cheese and I love pork. I have never done that, but that sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you just take the pork rinds and you just scoop, like I just cut a block of cream cheese in half and I put it in like a Tupperware bowl, and then I just scoop it. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go get myself some ingredients and we'll take right, because I'm tasting the pork and the cream cheese right now, like the cream with like the
salty
flavors, the salty of the pork. Oh man. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. That's a new one. I like it. What are some simple things that bring you joy?
Seeing my son and my youngest daughter together, and they make each other laugh about the smallest things. I don't want to say the most ridiculous thing, but the smallest things they make each other laugh, and to hear them crack up, I will never not get enough of that. Like, I love that so much. Dragonflies and butterflies mean a lot to me. And so when I see one like outside, I'm like tearing up just talking about it. Wow. When I see one outside, I always stop and just appreciate it. Sorry, that was weird. So those 2 things are very, very special to me. It always makes me think of loved ones that have passed, and I've lost a lot of people that are really close to me. And so I always just take a moment to kind of think of them and think of positive things. We have a house, and it's a small house, but it's a beautiful house, and not in the Instagram kind of way, like I think it's cute and we've done a lot to make it our own. But every single night when I go to bed, I just tell the universe how grateful I am for this place, because, when I walked away from the marriage, I just took the kids' stuff. I took their bunk beds and their clothes and my clothes, obviously, but I left everything else behind. So we moved in with my mom and my sister, and we stayed there for 2 years, and then we moved into a very small apartment. And I had an air mattress for my bed. We had a card table to eat on, and then we had the kids. The kids had their stuff, and I ended up with an apartment full of furniture from my best friend. Made a post on Facebook that said I needed some furniture. I didn't even know she did it. And before the weekend was over, I had a house full of stuff. And so to know that I've gone from that, to this, to where we have real space and a yard, and I do my best. Gratitude's another really big thing for me. It's huge, honestly, because if you can't be grateful about the little things, then you're not going to be trusted with the big things. And so, and when you are grateful for the little things, it's easier to be happy. It's easier to kind of put the mess to the side, to not get upset about that comment on Facebook or whatever, because you have so much else to be grateful for. And we can all find things to be grateful for, all of us.
Amen to that. Where can they find you, Angela, if they have any comments about what you're up to in the world, your podcast and business?
Yeah, so I am at Purpose by Ange on all platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. My podcast is housed on YouTube. My Facebook page is pretty up to date with things that are going on, as is my Instagram page. I'm on Clubhouse with I have 2 clubs on Clubhouse. One on Purpose by Ange, where we talk about holistic healing, and then I have an All Things LP club where myself and other people with dwarfism talk about different things that are going on in the world, or topics, or what have you. So it's pretty easy to find, and then my website is purposebyange.com, and it's pretty complete with everything about me and what I've been up to and all that kind of stuff.
We will have that all linked in the comments so that you can connect to Angela through a click of a button there. And before we end today, what last advice can you give our viewers on living a life with purpose?
Just find self-love and figure out what that looks like for you, and start today. And quit putting it off. Stop making excuses, because once you get started and you see what it looks like, then you'll be able to keep going. You'll have reason to keep going and keep searching for it. It's hard work, and it can become messy work, but it's well worth it, because you deserve to love yourself radically right where you are. Not once you achieve a certain set of goals or a certain set of things or become a different person. Who you are today deserves radical self-love.
Thank you for being here with us. You are absolutely amazing, and I'm so honored to have you here with us today. As you're going about the rest of your week, remember to look for all those things that are working around you. Mm-hmm. Take that time for yourself to sit in stillness and find answers for what your heart needs, and have a beautiful rest of the week, everyone. Thank you again, Angela.
Thank you, Lori.